Live button on this lovely Friday. And so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started. We've got some business to attend to, and we got to wait for the tubes to connect themselves before we get started. But it looks like they're working. So let's do it, shall we? In this moment right now. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name's Robert Gouveia. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about the Hunter Biden plea deal. Reports out now that he was getting increasingly upset as the plea deal was crumbling down around him. And boy, I can imagine this. It's a fun one. We got CBS Catherine Herridge confirming that for us, saying, you know, she was about 100 feet away from the guy, and they had planned this thing out to the T. They knew that this was all an unspoken deal. I know a lot of the media out there are saying that, I can't believe this whole thing went awry. It's like, no. They got caught. They had the whole thing worked out. The judge just busted them. And so Hunter was getting more and more upset as the day went on. The White House commented on this as well, about the plea deal and about the collapse. And Karine got asked, is Hunter getting any favorable preference from you? We'll hear what she says. And then we've got a clip from Representative Lauren Boebert, who explains that Hunter's privacy that they keep demanding is not one of the principles that are afforded to the right. And so she's got some comments about that as well. We've got some more Hunter updates. We have a new order from Judge. She came out and she has now banned the lawyers from contacting the court. So we had a big kerfuffle earlier this week where somebody called Judge Noreika's court clerk, and they said that this was a unregistered filing, unsealed. It needed to be sealed. Please get it off the docket. Turns out that was the opposing counsel. That was Hunter's lawyers who called to get something that was detrimental to their client that they didn't file off the docket. And the judge issued a new order that basically said, don't you even think about calling our clerks again. All right. You got a problem with the docket. Why don't you call me, buddy boy? We'll see what that order looks like. We've got comments from Josh Hawley and James Comer over in the House of Representatives explaining more about this cover-up, which is exactly what Ted Cruz calls this. He says this is a cover-up. Democrats are out there scrambling to try to repair this. And Joe Biden is now joking about impeachment. You know, Republicans like Kevin McCarthy are saying that there's going to be an inquiry, an impeachment inquiry that starts. And we'll hear from him and see what he says that means and what that involves. And J.D. Vance is also taking some action to actually block Biden's nominees to get something done on this, now that we've seen all of this criminality out on full display for all of us. So we've got Claire McCaskill and the Democrats are rallying around the president, saying there's no evidence against this guy at all. In fact, Joe just is a loving father. That's all. He just loves his son. And they're going to indict him for having so much fatherly love. Yes, it's a real clip. We're going to go through it. But of course, the big news yesterday, right after Hunter had his catastrophe plea deal scam blow up in his face, they turned around and said, oh, why don't we just add some more charges to our political enemy? So they did. They just, oh, okay. Is there anything else we can do back there? They're all shoving their faces with pizza. And then they just said, yeah, why don't we just file up a different superseding indictment and send it on over? And so we'll go through it. The AP has a report. They're layering on some additional charges. And what I have done is I've actually pulled up both of the indictments. So this is the old version here, and this is the new version on the right side. The superseding indictment versus the old indictment. We can go through. We're going to see it's mostly the same thing. A couple of additional charges about some deleted security footage, and I'll show you where the differences are. We'll go through it together, actually, and we'll see exactly what is going on here with that indictment. But there's other reaction on this one. We have response and reaction from Christie and from Schiff, who are saying that this case is getting worse for Donald Trump. The walls are closing in, as we're used to hearing. But DNI Ratcliffe, who used to work with Trump, the director of national intelligence, says there's no way this trial is happening before 2024. Why? Because they added in a whole new defendant and new charges, which means Jack Smith's a big liar because he said he was ready for trial in December, and now he's adding defendants and charges? Okay, so this whole thing's just a big joke. We'll see what Ron DeSantis says about it. Megyn Kelly had an interview with him, and she dug this one out and made sure this one hit the Twitterverse. I'm sorry, Elon. I'm sorry. The exosphere. And made sure that we got to comment on this one. So we'll see what he says about Trump and January 6th, of course. So, my friends, as you can see, we have a lot to get to today. Now, if you were a member, well, thank you, first of all, for being a member. But if you're not a member, I would love it if you became one, because this morning we had some great conversations. We talked about two stories that were fun stories. This Oakland story from the NAACP, this woman, Cynthia Adams, fired off this letter. And man, she is furious about the collapsing situation in Oakland. And she's calling out progressives. She's like, your policies are terrible. Defund the police is garbage. And, you know, all the fun stuff. So it was a very fun letter. It's like you're seeing the cities are starting to figure out all these promises aren't really working. So we talked about that this morning. We also talked about the Facebook files, which have been dropped now. Jim Jordan dropped the new Facebook files, which just shows Joe Biden, Rob Flaherty, other people in the White House putting the pressure of the government on the necks of Facebook and other big tech companies to censor us, to censor Americans, to shut our political speech down because we are the enemies of these maniacs. So that's what we talked about with our members this morning. Ton of fun. Thank you to our members. And if you want to join us, great way to do that is heading on over to robertgovea.com. You can find links over there to all sorts of stuff, including our locals community, also at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. But at robertgovea.com, you can find new reports on the website. So if you miss a show or if you miss a segment, you can just come right over here to reports on the website. Just click the link. You can get a summary of what the video talks about and get a full report on what the video includes. So if you would rather read something than watch something or just kind of see what's happening, you get a full summary of what's in the video, and you can always stay up to date on exactly what is happening with all the reports right there. And then, of course, you can sign up here to access the mind map, which is the exact thing that we go through here today. So if you want to grab any links to anything that I'm sharing with you today, it's all available. Just go to robertgovea.com. Sign up, get access to the mind map. And we love our members. We do member-only morning streams where we talk about the daily docket. We hit the Trump docket. We talk about the Biden docket now. There's a lot going on. So there's just too much to get to here. So we'd love to see you watching the watchers.locals.com. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes, we've got to make sure we're healthy and fortified and well. And so let's make sure we lose those leftover pandemic pounds. But how sick are you of all those ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? You know, we've all been there. We've all done that. And they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day anyways? And I don't. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula. Very specific fruits and vegetables you won't find in any other product. Just go look at the label. You'll see what I'm talking about. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight the healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when you walk into your doctor's office and he just goes, whoa, whoa, you look good. What happened? And you're going to go, Field of Greens, doc. Use code Robert at checkout. So go over there, fieldofgreens.com, load up your cart with all sorts of good stuff. And don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. All right. And so, now that we're healthy, let's get into the meatballs. All right, my friends. Donald Trump gets a superseding indictment from Jack Smith. Isn't that convenient? The day after Hunter's plea deal falls apart, Jack Smith decides to indict Joe Biden's top political opponent. Very, very interesting, isn't it? Now, we're going to go through both indictments, both the original indictment and the superseding indictment, which just means the indictment that's going to replace the original indictment. And you can see as we're scrolling through here, we've got a side-by-side And a lot of it is very much the same, but we'll hit some of the highlights and explain what the differences are. A lot of people on the left are doing cartwheels again. Every time there's a Trump update, they're doing backflips, hyperventilating, high-fiving each other, and dyeing their hair a new color. It's a strange culture, but they're doing it. And so we'll go through it. I don't think it's much different than the other indictment. There's some security footage, and there's a new witness, but they're making allegations about something that really never came to fruition, saying that there was a talk about deleting some footage and so on. But we'll go through it. You'll see the first one is 40 pages or so. The next one is 60 pages. And so we'll match up both of them. But let's get a little bit of background before we see some reaction from DNI Ratcliffe, Ron DeSantis, who has some comments on the J6 indictment that is coming up in parallel to this one, and reaction from Schiff and Christie. But the AP gives us a little bit of background on this entire story. They tell us Trump is facing new charges. Here's what you need to know. They say now new charges have been added as we're expecting an indictment for a whole separate case. This one is taking place out of Florida. So this is the second indictment on the classified documents case. Prosecutors are now alleging that Trump asked a staffer to delete camera footage in an effort to obstruct. The indictment also includes new counts of obstruction, willful retention of the national defense information, which means we've got the same charges that we've already got before. Prosecutors also added a third defendant to the case, property manager Carlos De Oliveira, who they say schemed with Trump and Walt. Now, Trump's denied any wrongdoing, and you'll see as we go through this, there's some differences, and I want to just show you how this works. So let's just hit it right now. You'll see this is the side-by-side. This is the original indictment filed June 8th. This is the new filed superseding indictment July 27th. And as we'll scroll through most of this, you'll see that the paragraphs match up. All right, paragraph 1, Donald Trump. Looks like the margins are a little off on the second document, so it's a little bit further down. Paragraph 2 matches, 3, and then we get to 6. They talk about these two occasions. Now, one of these paragraphs was referencing this Bedminster charge. The Bedminster charge was the one where they said he was flashing this Iran document to somebody outside of Florida. And we were saying, well, that's weird. This is a jurisdictional problem. Why are they charging him for something in Florida when the crime happened in Bedminster, New Jersey? That's a separate jurisdiction. They should have filed it there. But we're going to learn that they're saying that the document was ultimately contained at Mar-a-Lago. So we still go through this. Looks like it's very much the same. Paragraph 7s match up. 8s are matched up, as is 9. Now, then we get to a difference. Now, you'll see this is where in paragraph 10, we're going to get an addition. All right, so everything up until this point is basically the same, right? There might be some small differences I can't see at this first glance. But they added this section in here. So paragraph 10, if we go down here to the actual indictment that we can mark up, paragraph 10 tells us the following. Okay, so beginning in January, Carlos De Oliveira, that's the new defendant, so we'll call him D3, was employed as the property manager at Mar-a-Lago. Prior to holding the position of property manager, he was employed as a valet at Mar-a-Lago. Now, the reason why we're fast forwarding through the rest of this indictment is because we already read this one. We already read through the full thing on the left previously. And so they tell us now about Trump's co-conspirators, and we're adding in a little bit here, right? That's the paragraph 10. Then we get basically back on track. Paragraph 11, we're now down a paragraph each. So you'll see 12 matches 13 because we have the inserted paragraph 10. And we're basically back on track again. 13 matches 14, and we'll fast forward through most of this. You see, we're basically just one paragraph behind. The rest of the document is very much the same. Trump's public statement on classified documents just matched up, just one by one. We've got the photographs. Those are matched up. Same thing here, same thing here. Actually, we're basically caught up again. So the documents are totally in sync on both the old indictment and the new indictment. Same conversations. We have a little bit of a change here. Looks like it's a sentence inserted. But the crux of this looks like it's still basically matching up. The margins are just a little bit off. Mostly the same content. Grand jury investigations still matched up. Nauda's conversations with Trump. False certification of the documents with Trump. And we're just fast forwarding through a lot of this. Now, this is where we get to a big difference. Okay, so here on page 26 of both indictments, now we see on the original indictment, the court authorized search of the Mar-a-Lago club. We've got a whole new section here. The attempt to delete the security camera footage. So everything on this side is now going to be inserted before the counts. All right. So basically these 3.5 pages are all new. So let's see what those say. We'll go over to page 27 on the superseding indictment, jump all the way down here and see what we've got. Past all the photos, and we'll get to 27. They tell us, this is about the attempt to delete the security camera footage at Mar-a-Lago. So, on June 3rd, when FBI agents were at the Mar-a-Lago club to collect documents from Trump's lawyer, the agents observed that there were surveillance cameras. On June 22nd, a couple weeks later, the DOJ emailed Trump lawyer a draft grand jury subpoena requiring the production of camera footage on the ground floor where the storage was located. Then, after they say the email came in from the DOJ, then Trump called De Oliveira, and they spoke for 24 minutes at the following day later that night. Then on Friday, the following day, DOJ emailed the attorney for Trump's business org, which required the production of the footage. Hey, we've got this permission now, grand jury subpoena. Give us the documents. That same day, they say Trump's lawyer spoke with Trump by phone. He said, hey, we got this subpoena from the DOJ for the security footage. At 3:44, Nauda received a text message from a coworker, another Trump employee 3, indicating that Trump wanted to see Nauda. Now, we don't know who this is, right? Who is this person? Is this the person inside? We've always been asking, who is the mole at Mar-a-Lago? Always questioning the evidence. Indicating that Trump wanted to see Nauda. Less than 2 hours later, Nauda, who was scheduled to travel with Trump to Illinois the next day, changed his travel schedule, began to make arrangements to go to Palm Beach instead. Nauda provided inconsistent explanations to colleagues for a sudden travel to Florida. He told 2 people different things. At 7:14 on June 24th, he texted one person that he would not be traveling with Trump the next day. He had a family emergency, and he used the shushing emojis. At 9:48 that night, he texted a Secret Service agent that I got to check on a family member in Florida. He arrived in Florida June 25th. He texted the same Secret Service agent that he was there working. Now, around the same time that Nauda was making travel plans to go to Florida, Nauda and De Oliveira contacted Trump employee 4. All right, so we've got TE3 and TE4, who was the Director of Information Technology, IT guy. At 5:02, Nauda sent text messages to the IT guy. He says, hey, bro, you around this weekend? Nauda texts Oliveira, says, hey, brother, you working today? De Oliveira responded, yeah, I just left. Nauda then called De Oliveira and they spoke for 2 minutes. So Nauda sends to employee, then Nauda texts Oliveira. So like Nauda's going to get a crew. Hey, you helping? You around? I got to move some boxes or something. IT guy, you here? De Oliveira, you here? Then employee 4 said, I'm local, entertaining some family that came to visit, but what's up? He said, okay, cool, no biggie. Just wanted to see where you were around. Enjoy, bro. Enjoy your time with your fam. Nice guy. What a nice boss. De Oliveira then texted Trump employee 4. He says, hey, buddy, how are you? Walter called me now. Said, trying to get in touch with you. I guess he's coming down. I guess he needs you for something. And the employee says, oh, he reached out. Didn't say what he wanted. I told him I was local, entertaining some family. He told me no worries. Oh, okay. So they got that cleared out. So Walt is texting some people. Are you available? De Oliveira is trying to also help round up the crew. And then the employee is a great team player. He says, hey, Nauda, bro, if you need me, I can get away for a few. Just let me know. Nauda says, hey, sounds good. Thank you. Like he's like, hey, this other guy messaged me. He's like, sounds like you might really need some help. If you need some help, let me know. What a nice team. On Saturday, June 25th, Nauta traveled from Bedminster, New Jersey to Palm Beach, Florida. That's where the alleged document was flashed to somebody in that audio recording that we heard. In that audio recording, we hear that journalist, or that I think she was working on a book or something. She's like, wow, okay, yeah, it looks pretty serious there. And the document, allegedly, we haven't seen it, of course, is the war plans that General Milley had crafted to invade Iran. And then they said that was Trump's plan. And Trump kept that document to show, no, that's not my plan. They gave this to me. Prior to Nauta's trip to New Jersey, De Oliveira told a valet at the Mar-a-Lago club, now we've got TE5, Trump employee 5, that Nauta was coming down. De Oliveira asked Trump employee 5 not to tell anyone that Nauta was coming down because Nauta wanted the trip to remain secret. De Oliveira also told employee number 5 that Nauta wanted De Oliveira to talk to employee 4 to see how long the camera footage was stored. That's the IT guy. TE4 is IT. Shortly after arriving to Palm Beach on the evening of June 25th, Nauta went to Mar-a-Lago, met with De Oliveira at 546. The Mar-a-Lago club. Nauta and De Oliveira went to a security guard booth where surveillance video is displayed on the monitors. They walked with a flashlight through the tunnel where the storage room was located, and they pointed out these surveillance cameras. On Monday, the 27th, De Oliveira walked into the IT office where TE4, the IT guy, was working with another employee at the IT department. De Oliveira requested that the IT guy step away from the office so that they could talk. So pull him out of the office. At 9:49 a.m., Trump employee 4 and De Oliveira left the area of the IT office together and walked through a basement tunnel. De Oliveira took employee 4 to a small room known as an audio closet near the white and gold ballroom. Once inside the audio closet, De Oliveira and the Trump employee 4 had the following exchange. So TE4 is a government witness, IT guy. De Oliveira told Trump employee 4 that their conversation should be private, remain between the two of them. De Oliveira asked Trump employee 4 how many days the server retained the footage. Employee 4 responded, probably 45 days, I believe. De Oliveira also told Trump employee 4 that the boss, which is different than the big guy, just, it's, different, wanted the server deleted. Trump employee 4 responded that he did not know how to do that and that he did not believe that he would have the rights to do that. And Trump employee 4 told De Oliveira that De Oliveira would have reached out to another employee who was a supervisor, and Oliveira insisted that the boss wanted the server deleted and asked, what are we going to do? And so is this Nauta? Is this Trump? I mean, they're implying that this is Trump, but we don't know. And I still am a little bit confused. I don't know if we missed, what is the nature of this surveillance footage? I mean, it's coming and goings through hallways, or the security camera footage from the basement, on the ground floor of the basement, but certain locations, any and all from internal cameras at certain locations from these dates, January 10th to June 24th. And so then we're asking ourselves, if they're retained for 45 days, then it's really going to only be theoretically minus 45 days from June 24th, right? We'd only go backwards about 45 days. Anything outside of this date would have already been deleted, presumably. And so they were also walking around outside near the security gates, right? Where the storage room, they pointed out surveillance cameras with the flashlights. All right. So at 10:14, De Oliveira texted Nauta, who was still in Florida. He says, hey, buddy, are you working today? Oliveira then called Nauta at 10:15, and they spoke for about 1 minute. Later that day, at 1:06, Nauta texted De Oliveira, who was at the Mar-a-Lago club. He says, on my way to you. Between 1:31 and 1:15, De Oliveira walked through the bushes at the northern edge of the Mar-a-Lago property to meet with Nauta on the adjacent property. Then they walked back to the IT office that they had visited that morning. They walked again through the bushes at the northern edge. Then they met with Nada at the adjacent property. Okay, they're walking around the club. At 3:55, Trump called De Oliveira. They spoke for 3.5 minutes. What's that phone call? What's in there? Now, then it looks like we have, let's go back and see where we are at here. If this matches back up. All right, so then we get the actual search warrant request. In July, the FBI then reviewed surveillance video from the club showing the movement of the boxes. Then they executed the search warrant, and here's what they found. Just over 2 weeks after the FBI discovered the documents in the storage room, Nauta called Trump employee 5 and said words to the effect of, "Someone just wants to make sure Carlos is good." In response, Trump employee 5 told Nauta that De Oliveira was loyal and that De Oliveira would not do anything to affect his relationship with Trump. That same day, at Nauta's request, Trump confirmed in a Signal chat, Trump employee 5 confirmed in a Signal chat group with Nauta and the PAC representative that De Oliveira was loyal. The same day, Trump called De Oliveira and told De Oliveira that Trump would get De Oliveira an attorney. Okay. So did they actually delete anything? Or no? I don't know if you guys missed it. Did you see anything here about bleach bit or a hammer? Maybe that's why this is getting prosecuted. Maybe they should have used a hammer and a bleach bit, and then none of this would have ever been prosecuted in the first place. I don't know. All I see is them walking around, pointing out stuff on camera, talking about stuff. And then we have some phone calls. Trump and called De Oliveira. Do they have these recorded calls? What did they say on those calls? So they want us to infer that Trump is orchestrating the destruction of evidence that's relevant to the subpoena. So they're asking us to infer a lot here. They're saying that this timeline all makes sense because Trump made some phone calls. And we don't know, it all is out of context as far as I'm concerned, right? That's my presumption on this one. They don't get the benefit of the doubt. We have the presumption of innocence in this country. So they could easily cherry pick every one of these little things and create this timeline to imply Trump had a mens rea, a mental state, to go and obstruct evidence. But there was apparently no actual obstruction of the evidence as far as I've read in here. All right, so let's see if there is anything that we're missing. So we are going to break this connection, break this scroll lock, and see if we can sync these back up again. So we've got the court-authorized search of Mar-a-Lago on both documents, which is here. And then we have paragraph 91, which is new. Then we get counts 1 to 31 and 1 to 32. Let's full screen this again. And so we're going to get one additional count all the way down on both documents. 31 on that one, 32 on this one. So we've got one additional count. Count 33, conspiracy to obstruct justice. We've got an additional count in there. And the rest of the documents are just going to basically be the new charges that are all tucked away in there. So let's see where Oliveira's are so we can see what his new charges are. False statements on all the various counts. And then here you have, okay, so they got them all on this one. Here we go. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, count 33. They're adding Trump and Carlos De Oliveira. The purpose of the conspiracy was to conceal all this stuff, and that they were attempting to delete the footage to conceal it from the grand jury. suggesting that they move boxes and then delete the footage. The rest of this is basically the same. So, all right. So for all of the hyperventilating you hear out there, that's basically all it was. It's some phone calls. We don't even have actually any evidence destroyed. We've got apparently a couple phone calls between Trump and Carlos. Don't even know if those are recorded or they're as evidence. A couple new witnesses that might be in this case, which are IT guy and Trump employees 3 and 5. And a lot of that conversation is all very far removed from Donald Trump, by the way. Trump's not, it sounds like Carlos is not acting as a witness to say Trump told me to do these things. Carlos is being charged. So we're relying on third parties, hearsay type of statements to make this case. And it's going to be very interesting to see where it goes. Now, the usual suspects are hyperventilating over this as usual. And Adam Schiff is one of the people who says, this is just incredible. This case is getting stronger by the day, even though I've been censured like a historical figure. I mean, not that many people have been censured in American history. I think only 3. He's one of them. What a loser. But he is now going to take, a lot of joy and excitement in Trump being prosecuted, because that's basically all these people live for.
Well, the evidence was already strong in the original indictment, but in this superseding indictment now, you just see how much more evidence the special counsel has. There are evidently cooperating witnesses. There is surveillance footage of some of the figures in this new superseding indictment, including De Oliveira meeting surreptitiously with others, some night meetings, some morning meetings, meetings in an audio cabinet or an audio room, a small audio room, to just sort of discuss the plot to destroy these surveillance tapes. It just shows what incredible body of evidence the special counsel has, but it also shows just how much consciousness of guilt there is on the part of the president. The overlapping efforts.
We would love to see your phone calls there, Shifty Schiff.
To obstruct the investigation. If, part of it.
We could get his records, his text messages, and come up with whatever story we wanted, right? They've got months of footage of Trump stuff. And the best they've got is a couple people walking around pointing at security cameras.
Earlier
that didn't even delete anything?
Which is he had declassified this information, or he had the right to declassify it. If any of that was true, of course, he wouldn't need to go to these extraordinary efforts to destroy evidence. So it is, I think, very powerful again.
And you don't even know that he's destroying evidence. He could be destroying things that are not related. But let's say he did, make some orders and destroy these things. He's well within his right to do stuff within his right? Unless it's the direct subject of the subpoena, which, again, we'll see if that's the allegation in here. But there's a lot of footage from different places of Mar-a-Lago, and I don't know exactly how they match up. They're going to have to prove that case.
And shows, just how much evidence there is, but also I think is going to put enormous pressure on this newly indicted De Oliveira to cooperate, as well as on Nauta to cooperate. And I wouldn't be surprised to see one or both of them ultimately decide it's in their best interest to do so.
There you go. They're going to try to get people to flip, right? They prosecute people to turn them. Whether Trump is guilty or not, you just threaten both of those other people with 40 years in prison. You're going to go to prison for 40 years if you don't say that Trump told you to do that thing. And they go, what? The amount of pressure that comes down to bear upon you is a lot. Now, hopefully they have the fortitude to weigh this out. And if Donald Trump, or when Donald Trump wins again, then he can pardon this whole thing and make it go away. But here's the usual suspect, Christie, right? These people are so excited, so gleeful about Trump being taken out. Either there's enough pressure brought by the DOJ to flip his own employees, his teammates, or a federal judge holds him in custody.
I looked at that superseding indictment yesterday, and it tells me one very clear thing. They have a cooperating witness, at least one, maybe two, from inside the Trump organization.
Wow, you mean like Trump employee 3 or 5? Great analysis, Chris.
That are cooperating and providing them with information that is in the indictment against the former president.
Yeah.
And so this is, again,
we read it too.
Pringze brought on himself. And I think what our voters need to begin to think about is we have a front runner right now who, when he gets on the stage for the Fox News debate on August 23rd, will be out on bail in at least 2 different jurisdictions, if not 3, between now and then.
You see how happy he is about that? He wants him incarcerated. They all do.
How are we going to beat the Democrats with a candidate who is going to be out on bail facing numerous self-inflicted wounds in courtrooms across this country? No one else wants to talk about that.
Sounds like he thinks that the DOJ and the FBI are totally legitimate entities, that Trump is just bringing this all on himself, that these are legitimate prosecutions.
In the race, because they're all afraid of Donald Trump. I've known him for 22 years. I'm never going to be afraid to tell the truth, Neil. And what I just said is the truth.
All right, Chris. All right, so that's Chris Christie. Now, I think that he's excited that Trump is going to have some legal problems. I think a lot of the candidates are excited that Trump's going to have some legal problems. In fact, that might be part of their strategy. But is the trial going to happen before 2024? We have long doubted that, right? Any complex case in general takes a long time. And now that you've got a classified documents problem, and now that you've got former president, which brings new, novel, complex issues in the middle of a political season, the idea that this thing would go before 2024 is just nuts. But they were trying to get it done. And Jack Smith had as much bravado to say this should be taking place in December of 2023, this year. And he made this big opinion, this big fight with Donald Trump. We can get it done. We can get it done. I don't want to delay it, blah, blah, blah. Judge ended up posting it until May, which is still before 2024. But I still believe that's going to get continued because we're never going to get everything accomplished by then. But the bravado of Jack Smith to tell the judge, we're ready, and then turn around and file a whole new defendant and new charges. And now we're also going to comply with that discovery by the end of December. It was all just a giant scam, right? These people are being very dishonest about what they're doing. And I think that there are some tactics being played. What if the Trump did hold trial until December of this year? Would he have still brought in a third defendant with a new slate of charges? Because that would have then required the postponement of it again. So what is he doing here? Right? This is about causing maximum penalty. And I really do believe that there is some strategy in this too. They are holding these things, they are gearing these things up to combat the other side. If the Republicans are going to be beating up on Joe and Hunter, they're going to be beating up on Trump the same way, because this is the new type of politics in America. But this is Trump's former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe. He knows a little bit about the Classified Information Procedures Act and how this stuff works. And he agrees there's no way this is being done now, especially that they've added in a whole new defendant.
On the Trump superseding indictment, my takeaway from that, Maria, I told you a long time ago, this case isn't going to go to trial before the 2024 election because of the implications of the Classified Information Protection Act that basically require there to be a trial before a trial on the issue of classified information. By Jack Smith adding a defendant yesterday through the superseding indictment, that only slows that process down. That only makes me more convinced that there's no way this gets to trial before 2024. It also tells me that Jack Smith's case isn't as strong as has been represented, because he knows he's slowing the case down, but he's adding a defendant because he apparently thinks he needs this maintenance worker and the testimony, from that to try and gain a conviction.
Needs to add him so that he can flip him. And if your case was so rock solid, why are you just adding kind of it's not a huge part of this case. And if you're saying that this is going to add the mens rea portion of this, like, what does this gain him? It's another witness with some implication that Trump maybe had the intent to obstruct evidence that maybe you didn't see in the other charges, but it's the same types of charges. It's another witness that they might flip, another defendant, co-defendant. But they're going to just keep moving forward with it. Now, January 6th is another parallel prosecution that is going to be coming up soon. So we've got 2 indictments in Florida. One replaced the other one with new charges. And now we're talking about the January 6th saga. Presidential candidate Ron DeSantis went on the Megyn Kelly show. And Megyn Kelly clipped this one out for us to enjoy on the X and says, "Hey, Ron, you've said Trump should have done more on January 6th. And we've heard that argument before, haven't we? Oh, yeah. from Liz Cheney. She said Trump was just sitting around on his butt watching Fox News. And so did Nancy Pelosi. That was her argument too. She said Trump was sitting around on his big fat butt, and that's why she had to call General Milley and try to get him to do something. And they needed to invoke the 25th Amendment because nothing was being done. And that Trump should have gone out there and said, "Halt, America! You're right, MSNBC. The election was fair. Stop these riots." So it was this argument that Trump didn't do something that was so obvious to do as a leader that it was negligent. Trump not doing what Liz Cheney wanted Trump to do would be negligent. Trump not acting the way Adam Schiff wanted him to act was negligent. And not just negligent, but grossly negligent, such that it constitutes reckless conduct, which is the sufficient mental state for mens rea to create criminal intent that allows criminal charges to be brought. Okay, it's a long line of connecting the two. But by saying that he should have done something that he didn't do, if you're a doctor operating on somebody's brain and you're supposed to do something and you don't do that thing, that's medical malpractice, right? And you're going to get in trouble for that. They're saying that Trump should have met a certain standard of conduct. And that by itself is what amounts to insurrection and leading to criminal conduct. So Megyn Kelly asks him about that. Very similar argument. You've said Trump should have done more on January 6th. Like what? Here's what Ron says.
You said Trump should have done more on January 6th. Like what?
Well, look, I think it's been well documented, kind of his conduct when it first started, how he sat there, could have obviously leaned in harder. I mean, even his own kids were texting saying, he needs to do more, he needs to do more. Is that criminal, though? I mean, that's the thing when you talk about a grand jury and a potential criminal indictment.
You said Trump.
Well, that's what they're trying to do there, Ron. They're going to take that to criminal. And look at Megyn Kelly. She knows what she's doing right here, doesn't she?
Should have done more on January 6th. Like what?
Well, look, I think it's been well documented, kind of his conduct when it first started, how he sat there, could have obviously leaned in harder. I mean, even his own kids were texting saying, he needs to do more, he needs to do more. Is that criminal, though? I mean, that's the thing when you talk about a grand jury and a potential criminal indictment.
You said Trump should have done.
Indicted. He's going to get indicted there, Ron. So Megyn Kelly dropped that one out, put it out on display. If you want to watch the full thing, make sure you're following Megyn Kelly. It's primary season, my friends. It's turning into a blood sport out there. We've got Tim Scott's hitting Ron DeSantis hitting Trump. We've got Vivek's hitting everybody. It's just turning into a blood sport. So we know that he is going to be indicted. It's going to happen any minute now. I was actually expecting it this week. That didn't happen. So surely next week we'll get it. Jack Smith is racing against the clock. Got to get his indictment in before the biggest Fannie Willis, the biggest Fannie in all of Georgia, gets hers in. And of course, we are going to continue to cover this and be defending this unjust indictment for the foreseeable future, my friends. And thank you for subscribing and sharing this video with a friend or family member, wherever it is you're watching it, as we continue on. Now, let's turn our attention to the fallout of the Hunty plea deal. Hunter Biden is increasingly upset. Oh, no. His plea deal didn't go through. The one that he tried to orchestrate and cram down the gullets of America using his daddy's Department of Justice, it went a little bit awry after both him and the DOJ, his defense attorneys, all colluded to squeeze this thing through. Now, CBS, Catherine Herridge, she was there on scene. She was sitting just right behind Hunter, and we read through the full transcript of that proceeding. If you missed that, I'd encourage you to watch that. It was a doozy, and Judge Noreika did an amazing job holding these people accountable. But Catherine Herridge is going to tell us that as she's sitting there in this room full of media, we're watching this train wreck slowly get worse. It's coming off the tracks until this explosion happens, and suddenly the deal's not going to go through. Hunter and his lawyers said that they've been working on this thing for 5 years. They had the whole thing orchestrated and set up, but then didn't work out. And Hunter was getting upset.
Morning. I was sitting about 20 feet behind the president's son in the courtroom yesterday, and as the deal started to fall apart, he appeared increasingly upset.
Oh.
Hunter Biden left the federal courthouse in Wilmington after the plea agreement reached with prosecutors last month collapsed. The president's son was expected to plead guilty to two misdemeanor tax charges and was expected to enter a diversion program to resolve a third charge for felony gun possession. But Trump-appointed Judge Mary Ellen Noreika's questions about the scope and structure of the agreement ultimately led to it unraveling.
Plea agreements fall apart every day in federal court, but they don't fall apart in high-profile cases like this based on such fundamental misunderstandings.
There were not any misunderstandings. They knew exactly what they were doing. They just didn't want the judge to interfere with it. They couldn't put it in writing. They tried to squeeze it through. They had an unwritten understanding, and when they got called out on it, then they both had to do this performance art. They both had to play theater and patty cake with each other, and Hunter's lawyers had to perform for his client. So they had to stand out there and pound the table. Your Honor, we've been working so hard on this for 5 years. My client is in unique circumstances, blah, blah, blah. So he's raging for his client, for Hunter's benefit. The prosecutors are raging to save their own skin because the judge is looking at them saying, what the heck are you doing in my courtroom? You authorize this? You've got the duty of care of a prosecutor. And you're bringing me this plea deal in my courtroom, telling me that I can't even exercise my own judgment. You're coming into my courtroom and telling me I'm handcuffed in my courtroom. And that if you have a problem with this in the future, you're just going to give me a phone call and give me a page my beeper, and I'm going to show up and say, hi, how can I help facilitate this resolution for you two? On my spare time, I've got a courtroom to run here. I'm not your private judge. So they knew exactly what they were doing. They just got caught.
Critical disagreement between U.S. Attorney David Weiss, a Trump appointee, and Hunter Biden's legal team is over whether the plea would close the door on future charges for other possible crimes. Weiss has said consistently the probe is ongoing. Judge Noreika said she felt she was being asked to rubber stamp an agreement she had concerns about and questioned if the resolution to the gun charge was even constitutional.
Hunter Biden is a private citizen, and this was a personal matter for him.
The White House reiterated the president's support for his son, but stressed the independence of the Justice Department. Republicans have criticized the plea agreement, calling it a sweetheart deal.
There shouldn't be two justice systems in America, and hopefully today that's what's being done.
Hunter Biden left the federal courthouse behind me without commenting for reporters. He's entered a plea of not guilty for now. A plea deal is still possible. The parties have 30 days to answer the judge's questions before she makes a decision.
Thank you, Catherine. We appreciate that nice update. So increasingly upset Hunter had a bad day. He really did have a bad day. He's like, oh, man. His lawyers told him, we got this whole thing in the bag, buddy. Don't worry about it. We got the documents all signed. He read everything. He put on a nice suit and tie, probably left all of his dime bags at home on this occasion. Was expected to go out of this done. Okay, like go talk to his diversion people, not have to be on pretrial services and go do drug testing and go get a real job. All of this happened to him. And he has the real possibility now that this blanket immunity deal that was going to exonerate him from all future prosecutions by actual prosecutors, not the so-called prosecutors that exist at the DOJ right now, all that's flying out the window. So he's freaked. I wonder if the White House checked on him. Are they concerned about it? Hey, how's the president's son doing now that his scam deal from your DOJ didn't go through?
Reaction to the legal developments yesterday and with the initial plea deal for his son appearing to fall apart.
So look, I'm really not going to say anything more than what I shared yesterday. This is a personal matter for Hunter Biden.
He showed up in a Secret Service motorcade.
You know, a personal issue. And as you know, this is
a personal issue involving leverage of the White House and the president.
Been done in an independent way by the Department of Justice. It has been led by a Trump-appointed prosecutor.
Wrong.
And I'm just not going to comment beyond what I said.
It's been led by a corrupt DOJ. You guys promised us at your administration that David Weiss would have full authority to bring charges wherever he wanted. Then it turns out the whistleblower said that's not true.
Yesterday, and of course, and we have said this multiple times, the president and the first lady, they love their son, and they support him as he is working to rebuild his life. I'm just not going to say anything beyond that.
Son's legal challenges will continue to take attention away from the White House now that this plea deal has fallen apart.
I'm just not going to speak to the politics of this. I'm not going to speak to characterize any of this for the president. What I can say is that, and I've said this before, this is a personal matter. This is Hunter Biden, as you know, is a private citizen, and this was done in an independent way. This investigation is being led by a Trump-appointed prosecutor. And so the Department of Justice is independent. We give them the space to be independent, and we respect the rule of law. I'm just not going to get into details of characterizing.
Has he spoken to Hunter?
I'm just not going to speak to any private conversation that the president has with his family.
Hey, Hunter, it's Dad. Are you okay?
In December 2021, President Biden told ABC's David Muir that accountability is necessary for the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, no matter where it goes. Does the president...
Yeah, so they're interested in January 6th justice, but not justice on their watch for their people. This is another question. Are you sure, Karine, can you say unequivocally that you have not gotten any special preference given to Hunty?
I'm not going to ask you to speak to anything other than this administration. Can you state categorically that the administration has neither sought nor received favorable treatment from the DOJ for any investigation into the president, members of the administration, his family, or former President Donald Trump?
Absolutely not. The Department of Justice is independent.
Yeah, right.
The president respects the rule of law.
Yeah.
He has been saying that since he was before president, and that will remain the case.
Nice statement. A lot of force there. She kept a straight face on that one. Pretty amazing. So they were using this new statement that Hunter is just an innocent private citizen. He happens to be living at the White House. Allegations are that he was trading on the U.S. government's good name, exploiting his daddy's position of power to deliver services for clients. He was making $80,000 a month from Burisma, tons more from all of the other companies in China and Romania. But should we just leave him alone? I mean, he's just a private citizen. Well, what about Boebert? Here's what she says.
Jen Psaki's replacement, saying that she's not going to comment
Karine,
on the firearms charges where he illegally purchased a firearm and then just dismiss everything and say that he's a private citizen. This frustrates me because the left doesn't care about the private citizens in my family. They go after every single one of them every chance that they get. And mark my words, the corrupt Biden crime family will go down as the most corrupt family in American political history.
True.
They do not care about facts. They don't care about actual evidence. You just showed an entire monologue of people saying there is no evidence when that's all we have provided. The FD 1023s, the investigative, criminal investigative IRS whistleblowers that we brought before the committee that showed $17.3 million that was funneled through these shell companies. Heck, Hunter Biden has funneled more money through these shady business deals than blockchain and crypto. And this is something the American people are waking up to, and they're seeing the corruption and they want accountability. We do not need someone who is in the White House holding the office of President of the United States of America who has these shady, corrupt deals that are going on. And clearly the bribery schemes that we are seeing with Joe Biden.
All right, so that's Lauren Boebert over in the House of Representatives saying, you know, there's no privacy for other people, and the White House is about as corrupt as they come. So, oh, Hunter's upset. Oh, no. Well, he'll get over it. Hopefully, we see him in a better mood, ready to face the consequences at his next pretrial conference. All right, so that, my friends, is a fun update on Hunter. Hopefully he doesn't go too wild this weekend at the White House. All right, now we've got another update. The Hunter judge has now banned Hunter's lawyers and all the lawyers from contacting the court clerk. Why? Shenanigans. Before the plea deal, we went through in detail what Hunter and his lawyers attempted to do, which was get an item removed off the court docket. Remember that the House Ways and Means Committee sent in a big, gigantic dossier on Hunter and all the crimes in an effort to convince the judge to not accept the plea deal before the plea date and before it was supposed to be entered. And what Hunter's team did is they called the court and they said that it contained private information of old Hunty Poo and that it needed to be removed from the docket. Something happened. We don't know exactly what happened, but the court clerk removed the entry off the item, off the docket. Then the people who filed it with the House Ways and Means Committee called the court and said, Judge, they took that off. We didn't. They said that Hunter's lawyers said that they were the House lawyers, and the judge was furious. She issued an order to show cause. She said, what's going on here? Hunter's lawyers responded, and they said, this whole thing's just a misunderstanding. Our staff said that they didn't say that they were from the opposing law firm and that this was all just a misunderstanding. Well, the judge came out and finally issued a ruling on this. And she says, okay, you know what? If you're going to blame my court clerk for the misunderstanding, then we're going to solve it this way. 2-page filing out of the District of Delaware. This order comes from the very Honorable Mary Ellen Noreika, who is the judge in the case of United States of America versus Robert Hunter Biden. She says the following. At Wilmington, July 28th, the judge says, I have already discussed my concerns about apparent misrepresentations made to a member of this court's clerk's office. Now, she says that Hunter's lawyers, they responded to our prior order and they explained their position to me. They said that no misrepresentation was made and that there had been, quote, an unfortunate and unintentional miscommunication. It's kind of blaming the court clerk on that one. Yeah, we didn't screw up, but they misheard us. She says, in addition to that, this is the judge speaking, in a submission addressing those apparent misrepresentations, the lawyers for the House Ways and Means Committee needlessly, now you guys are busted too, needlessly included on the public docket an email from a clerk's office staff member that contained her personal contact information. And so now she's been getting blown up too. She says, the clerk's office for this court, the judge says, is staffed by many hardworking and dedicated employees. They are often the public face of this court, and they must address many different and often difficult issues on any given day. Their jobs are not always easy, but they do these jobs well. They have earned my trust and my respect. I will not tolerate or countenance them being ill-used, disrespected, or lied to. Woo! Therefore, Judge Noreika says, it is hereby ordered that, going forward, any issues or inquiries in the above captioned cases shall be brought to my attention and not the clerk's office. Any such issues and inquiries shall be submitted in writing and placed on the docket. And to the extent that the rare instance arises in which a writing is not practicable, a phone call may be made to my chambers by an attorney who represents one of the parties in these cases or an interested third party. Period. Ah! Signed, Judge Mary Ellen Noreika. Sent out to all of the lawyers on the case. Woo! Man, she's fired up. She says, don't you dare. This is what I expected, honestly. Don't you even think about dissing our court clerks. Man, we love our court clerks. We never diss our court clerks ever, man. They never screw up. Never. Shout out to the court clerks. And yeah, got to be careful out there. So you can see she's not real happy about it. I will not tolerate or countenance them being ill-used, disrespected, or lied to. Punks, Hunter punk lawyers. And so they're going to be a little bit careful on that moving forward. Nobody wants to call the judge's chambers. Okay, nobody. So this is now Senator Josh Hawley reacting to the plea deal and the Biden crime family cover-up.
Yeah, it's really serious, and I think what's even more serious, or just as, Laura, is the fact they tried to hide it. As you were covering just a moment ago, the way the government structured that plea deal, they tried to hide the fact that they were basically giving Hunter Biden blanket immunity. And it wasn't until the judge in open court questioned them and said, hold on, what are the actual facts here? DOJ was trying to hide the facts. I mean, you talk about, again, subverting the rule of law. We all know the only reason Hunter Biden got this deal is because his father's rich and the president of the United States. That's what this is about. It is two standards of justice. He should be treated like anybody else, Hunter, and Joe Biden. Joe Biden should tell us whether or not he's a crook. Because the truth is, every day evidence piles up that he was involved in these foreign bribery schemes. We need to know, is this guy a crook?
Well, you're in the Senate, Hawley. We'd like to see some action from you guys. I know you don't control it right now, but you can certainly send some letters like Congress does. One guy who sends a lot of letters is James Comer, and he explains this and what's going on here. And we're asking ourselves, okay, well, we've got names. We know the people who were signing off on that plea deal. They're all listed on the plea memo. People like Leo Weiss and others. What is happening with them? Maybe you should investigate them. Who's their boss? Who approved this deal? Who signed off on this? David Weiss, is he the highest up person on this whole thing? All right. So he's the person who authorized this corrupt deal. What are they going to do about that?
The judge did the right thing. Today was a victory for justice in America. If anyone was watching the whistleblower hearing that we had and the oversight with the two credible whistleblowers, I mean, they laid out perfectly a series of crimes that the president's son had committed. It's not just about tax evasion, and the tax evasion that they're getting him on was just for 2 years for a W-2. It didn't even include all the shell company income that they've had that no one knows what the reasoning is behind the millions of dollars they've received from foreign nationals. It didn't include the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is one of the things that we said back in January, Jim Jordan and I said was a clear law that the president's son had committed. You also have the money laundering. Remember, 6 banks filed reports with the Treasury Department that they suspected this family was involved in laundering money from state-owned entities. State-owned entities are foreign countries. So the list goes on and on and on. It's obvious to anyone who has any knowledge of the law that the president's son's committed a host of crimes, and all roads lead to Joe Biden. That's the other thing. And that was, I think, one of the most interesting things from the testimony.
There is no Hunter Biden without Joe Biden. He's not getting on Burisma. He's not getting on China. He's not doing anything without Joe.
That Jason Smith got in the transcribed interview, and we heard in the hearing, was they wanted to interview Biden family members, and they felt pretty strongly that this was directly linked to Joe Biden.
And so on Monday, your committee will take a sworn deposition from Devin Archer, the former business partner of Hunter Biden.
We'll see if that happens or not.
And we expect him to testify that on 24 occasions, he can recall Joe Biden being used by Hunter to call into meetings with foreign business deals with the foreign business partners. The same Joe Biden that swore that he never once talked to his son about his foreign business dealings. Congressman Coleman?
Yes, there's a lot of speculation that that's what he's going to say. But remember, one thing Jason Smith pointed out, these lawyers have intimidated many of the witnesses that we've tried to bring forward for depositions and transcribed interviews. And they've told them things like, you're only going to implicate yourself. We're not going to get in trouble. Hopefully the witnesses, like Devin Archer and the others who we're going to be bringing before the committee this summer, hopefully they saw what happened in that court today. And that these lawyers aren't going to continue to get away with the shenanigans that they tried to pull yesterday when they lied and said they were part of Ways and Means staff to get something removed.
Amazing.
Those days are over, and we're in control of this thing. And I believe if these witnesses will come forward and tell the truth, I think the American people are going to be in for a big eye-opener.
Hunter's lawyers have been actually threatening people, even these current whistleblowers, the people who have been brought up by the House Ways and Means Committee. They're saying, you're disclosing our client's private tax information. That's a violation of U.S. code. And they're saying, no, we're not. We went through the appropriate whistleblower protections. That's why we went through Congress. We got our own lawyers. But they're still trying to chill this out. They're still trying to leverage, and they're sending letters to everybody, right? There was that one week or so, I think his lawyers fired off 4 different letters. I think our friend Garrett Ziegler at MarcoPoloUSA.org got one. we were a little disappointed. What are we not? What are we, chop liver here, Hunter? So it's going to continue to escalate, no doubt about it, because they're trying to dissuade people from putting their eyeballs on this. They wanted to squeeze this one through, but the judge didn't let them. And the judge straight up deposed him in his plea deal and then didn't even accept the plea deal. And all that's now official out of Hunter's mouth. And so that, I think, shows that this big giant Goliath is not as strong as they think they are, and that maybe other whistleblowers will come forward and maybe more of this will be fruitful.
With respect to Joe Biden.
Now, Congressman Jordan, your guys' weapon, does this now add to the long list of special treatment the Bidens have gotten?
Well, yeah, and the judge asked the fundamental question. She asked the prosecutors, she asked the folks from DOJ, has this kind of deal ever been put together before? Is this unprecedented? She asked, has it ever happened before? And the prosecutor's answer was, no, Your Honor. So it hasn't. He responded back, this is complete. This is why what Chairman Comer said, this is truly a win for equal application of the law, which is a hallmark of this great country, the greatest country ever. That's what we're supposed to focus on. And that was the motivation of Gary Shapley and Mr. Ziegler. They came forward because they saw unequal application of the law. That's why we want to talk to these folks, get all the facts, and then move forward from there.
And we know that the shenanigans were severe. Not only did they try to remove something off the docket that was harmful for their client, they tried to layer in an immunity deal in another attachment to another diversion offer, and then they crafted the plea deal in a fashion that meant the judge couldn't even accept or deny it in the normal fashion. So layers of corruption. Congress is just getting started. They tried and failed. Shout out to Judge Noreika. All right, and finally, we have Democrats are now scrambling to cover up for the Biden crime family. Hunter's plea deal fell apart. Biden evidence continues to abound. And we've got a lot of questions about impeachment coming out of Congress, including senators like Ted Cruz. He calls this whole thing a cover-up. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, let's check in with these Democrats who seem like they're very concerned about the unfair case being leveled against Joe Biden. This is one House representative who says this whole thing is just made up. Representative Madeline Dean says the Republicans really have no evidence Joe Biden's innocent.
And when you hear House Speaker Kevin McCarthy suggest that they may be close to an impeachment inquiry of President Biden, what's your reaction to that?
My reaction is, where's the evidence? There is no evidence of any wrongdoing by the president. And Mr. McCarthy knows that.
Laptop,
this is everything upside down.
Hunter's
because
charges,
the former
Hunter's
president, who was so corrupt and crude and base, engaged in such criminal activity, now we're going to try to deflect, or McCarthy's going to try to deflect and try to drag Mr. Biden into this. It's actually completely upside down. Again, it's failed leadership. And what it is also showing is the extraordinary contrast between what Democrats have done, particularly under President Biden.
What you impeached Trump twice for meaningless nonsense, and now you're prosecuting him? Should the Republicans do that to you guys?
In the last Congress, look at what we did in the big bills that we passed. Everything from ARPA, which was actually in the Congress before,
the Inflation
but
Reduction
the
Act?
Infrastructure Bill, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Safer Communities Act, IRA, all resources to invest in America, to invest in Americans as our economy is growing. Last night I had a telephone town hall, which was really informative. I love the opportunity to talk to my constituents.
About what?
We
Hunter?
had more than 6,500 folks
About
on the
what?
call.
Don't deflect.
And what they tell me is they have a growing confidence in the economy.
All right. So you see how she does it. Now, this is pretty good. She's pretty good at that. Did you see how she deflected that pretty nicely? And now the rest of this 2 minutes is going to be her babbling about some town hall she had. So it doesn't even answer the question. There's no evidence. And he doesn't say, well, yeah, there is. We've got SARS, we've got whistleblowers, we've got FBI, a whistleblower who's confirming the IRS whistleblowers. The Marco Polo people put together an encyclopedia of stuff from the criminality of the laptop. We've got Gal Luft. And the list goes on and on. I mean, what else do you want? But it's not enough. And really what this boils down to, according to a former senator called Claire McCaskill, this is Republicans trashing a father's love.
What accusations and arguments do you think they're going to make, given this didn't go exactly as planned today?
Well, they're going to keep doing what they've been doing.
What's that?
They are going to try to indict a father for loving his son who has been addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and without evidence of the father doing anything other than loving that son.
Yeah, it's just a father's love. They just love each other so much. It's a great defense. Wonder if that works in any other parts of the country.
They are going to try to indict a father for loving his son who has been addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and without evidence of the father doing anything other than loving that son.
It's just love, man. Republicans hate fatherly love. They want to prosecute you if you love your kids now. Now, Biden's joking about this, and it's not that funny. Listen to the crowd. They don't think it's funny.
Republicans may have to find something else to criticize me for. Now that inflation is coming down, maybe they'll decide to impeach me because it's coming down. I don't know. I love that one. Oh, anyway, it's another story.
Not too many laughs on that one. Not too many laughs on that one. Yeah, maybe you should be impeached. And don't you love this? They keep saying impeachment is going down, I think is what they're saying. Impeachment is going down. Is it going down or is it not going up as fast? Are we going to go back down to normal prices like pre-COVID? No, of course not. It's just not going up as fast anymore, which is great, but it's still going up, which is really fun. So we're never going to see the return to normality. But we know that they're panicked about this because there is a cover-up underfoot. The judge just busted him on it. And so here's Ted Cruz saying, all right, this is a cover-up. Time to do something about it.
I think they had a deal. This was a sweetheart deal. This was designed to give Hunter Biden a slap on the wrist, let him get away with 0 jail time. And its most important function was to cover up for the big guy, to cover up from Joe Biden, to say all these matters are done, it's all closed, it's over. I think if this plea hearing had been the day after the plea deal was announced, I think they would have stuck to their guns and it might well have been approved. But what happened is several weeks passed, and in the several weeks passed, more and more evidence came out. The FD 1023 from the FBI came out. The 2 IRS whistleblowers testified before the House of Representatives, accusing the Attorney General Merrick Garland of lying under oath, accusing the Attorney General of obstruction of justice in this case. And suddenly, the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office in the court realized they couldn't stand up in court and say, oh, no. We're not going to investigate any of this new evidence that's all come roaring out. That became impossible to say. So they said, well, yeah, of course we're going to investigate that. And suddenly Hunter's lawyers said, we're out of here. And the whole thing blew up. I'm glad it blew up. This deal stunk from day one, and it was about covering up Hunter and, more importantly, covering up Joe Biden's involvement in the corruption.
They did. They busted them. They got caught with their hands in the cookie jar big time. And so are the Republicans going to do anything about it? Kevin McCarthy is going to walk us through what an impeachment inquiry looks like. But J.D. Vance is taking some action. He says he's blocking nominees. No more U.S. attorneys are getting approved through his watch.
My objection is not specific to this nominee. I think the Biden administration has sent a lot of unqualified folks it's not sending its best to the Department of Justice. Many of the nominees are unqualified. Some of them seem actively corrupt, and some, I assume, are good people. But the problem is not this specific nominee. The problem is the fact that the Department of Justice has been corrupted under the Biden administration, and there needs to be some reckoning with the American people and with this body and with the nominations process before we allow these nominees to glide path to the confirmation process. Let's just talk about a tale of 2 leaders in this country right now, one a Democrat and one a Republican. Of course, the President of the United States, his son, Hunter Biden, has multiple federal charges, multiple federal investigations that implicate directly on the president's business dealings, may very well implicate the president directly, and plausibly could lead to some significant problems for the president in the presidential election.
Did you catch that Trump reference? They're not sending their best to the DOJ. They got a bunch of liars and cheaters and bullies, and some, I assume, are good people. Just like Trump's first speech after he walked down that elevator during the first run. So now we've got Kevin McCarthy, who's going to walk us through what an impeachment inquiry looks like and why it's so important. Here he is going at it with the media.
Earlier this week, we talked about floated the idea of impeaching President Biden as an investigation concerned not within Congress. Are you still?
Okay, let me first correct you. Were you there when I said that?
Whoa.
Okay, then what did I say? Okay, so you're claiming that I said we're going to impeach the president. I floated the idea of impeachment. Okay, so you're wrong. So if you record, go back and watch. I said impeachment inquiry. There is a big difference.
Yeah.
And let me explain it because maybe not everybody understands it.
Pay attention.
What impeachment inquiry does when you vote on the floor, it gives you the apex of power of Congress. Okay? And just walk through what? We have 2 whistleblowers from the IRS claiming the Biden family were treated differently, that David Weiss let the statute of limitations run out. The basic rule of thumb in any case, when you're getting the statute of limitations coming up within 6 months, you get an extension based upon the individuals. They said the Bidens were willing to do that. They should do that now. We have an individual that we now found went to the FBI a number of years ago, claiming that they bribed the president and said you couldn't find the money because all the shell companies, it's the 1023. We found that when then Attorney General Barr found it, that he sent it to the Pennsylvania Justice, and they said there's more to it. When does an attorney out-investigate the FBI? We then found that the president, Biden, while running for office, made a couple claims. He first looked the public in the eye and said, I've never spoken to my son about any business.
That's right. He told us that.
He said, my family has not taken one dime from China. In part of this investigation, we found that when the vice president became vice president, his family created 20 shell companies, kind of like what the 1023 said would happen. We found that 16 of the 17 payments from Romania came to the president while he was vice president. We now found that money did come from China, differently said. We've now found the president has changed what he said, but we have a real question about David Weiss and the Attorney General and the other 6 people in the meeting. It's contradictory based upon what the IRS agents said and asked questions and took notes from the meetings and emailed everybody about those notes. Now, if you're any member of Congress, this is not saying impeachment. This is not anything but we need to investigate. And what happens, like you watched the situation yesterday, where the federal government says there's still an investigation of the Bidens. Well, the only way you'll be able to get information that way is to have the strength to be able to get the documents you need. I was concerned when asked a question that I haven't seen an administration act this way at the same time as Nixon did by withholding information. If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation. So I'm glad you asked a question that I could clarify that you misinterpreted and misstated.
All right. We now know what an impeachment inquiry is. Thanks for the education, Kev. Are you going to do it? All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on this lovely Friday. A little bit of a shorter Friday. We got some good updates, though. We got Dems scrambling to defend Joe Biden. And, you know, now that Claire mentions it, I actually would like to revise my opinion. I think Hunter is probably innocent. This is just a situation of love. Yeah, just love. We're all just loving. All of us just love it up. All right. So Hunter now also has been banned from trying to rig the court docket in the future. And he's very upset over this weekend. Hopefully he does some journaling or writes some haikus or something. And then we know that Trump got indicted and we've got a new superseding indictment. And I expect fully another one to come out sometime next week. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And so, my friends, wherever it is you are joining us today. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for sharing this show, this channel with a friend, with a family member, telling them, hey, we do some good work here. And we appreciate you joining us. Now, let us see what you have to say about this. We're going to jump into your questions, comments, super chats, and amazingly generous donos. One reminder to check out robertgovea.com, where you can get daily reports on all of the topics that we talk about. So just go to this reports section. You can see a summary from yesterday's show, all the various segments that we hit here, all the Hunter stuff, all the Trump stuff, all the election stuff, robertgovea.com. And if you want to sign up for the mind map, join us there. Just enter your name, your email, get access to the mind map and our daily newsletter as well. And so also join us as a member, whether you're on Locals or on YouTube. We appreciate you joining as a member, watching thewatchers.locals.com, where you can also grab our private Telegram group where the chat never, ever ends. Now, I want to say hello to a couple people that we missed yesterday. I apologize. We got out of here, missed a couple super chats. We had this one from Viva Maga, says, awesome show, let's party, and here's to the court reporters. We love our court reporters. They do amazing work reporting on the court activities. And thank you, Viva. That was from yesterday. Viva MAGA is in the house. And Dolphin Fed said, Rob, 2 days without getting high blood pressure from the corruption. Sweet. Yeah, we can all let our bodies recalibrate a little bit. Isn't it nice? Good to see you, Dolphin Fan. Dolphin Fan is the man, and that was yesterday. This one also came in from Linda Fay. No question, but thank you very much, Linda Fay, for sending that one in. We missed those yesterday. Thank you for reminding us. We also had today, we got John Allen. John Allen says, I see that I'm going to have to create Rob a softer, better intro. Not complaining though. Yeah, I'm complaining. John also says, I stopped tipping $5 in any amount above $5. I might do $4.99 though. Rob, you're killing me with catching these donos at the end. Please go take a pee break when you are switching over to Locals. Comments from John. We got this one from Wells Mortensen. Says, longtime map surveyor, first time tipper. Keep rocking, mister. Oh, thank you, Wells. Thanks for being here. Longtime map surveyor, first time tipper. So have you been navigating the mind maps, Wells? That's awesome. I'm glad that you're doing that and enjoying it. And thanks for joining us over on Locals. We've got this one from Dolphin Fan is the man. 5 new members coming in. We got T. Oliver, Yannick Joris. We've got Tripos Rez. We got Golden Gaming, welcome, and Alex Winslow. All in the house, courtesy of our friend Dolphin Fan is the man. And YouTube members, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, because we're going to go over there for our members only after party. And also members, we're going to do a members only morning stream tomorrow as well. And so we hopefully will see you there. Quantum Thug Life became a supporter. Amazing, Quantum. So we'll see you too. Don't forget to get that Telegram link, and we'll see you there at the after party. And Stop Sniffing Kids Joe has been a member for 3 months. Woo, that's pretty serious. Says, welcome new members. Hit that thumbs up button. Thank you, Stop Sniffing Kids Joe. And I agree with your title. He should stop doing that. Tara Rayner says, Mike Pence just said the class documents he found were inadvertently stored when Biden was VP, just now on Brett Baer. So he was saying that his docs were inadvertently, or that Biden's docs? Like, is he defending Joe Biden? Tara says Trump wanted to leak his security footage. That's a good point. I think he did say something about that. Good to see you, Tara. Yeah, it'll be curious to see what their response is. Now, they haven't filed a bunch of motions yet. They don't even have discovery yet, right? This case is just so fresh. John says, yeah, I'm just messing with you about the $5 part. Highlight of my day. Not a very high bar, though, I might say. Attached in the next dono window is your reaction, Rob. Thanks for another great stream. We'll skip that one, John. Thanks, John. We got this one's a bad poet from a bad poet says, I am still waiting for the video from Biden's garage and the footage from the Bribe China venture offices. Didn't they find classified docs there? They did. Yeah, I mean, they did. There was a whole box there with a lampshade over the top of it. And I'm not real sure what they were what they did with that. Like, did the FBI go, did they take photos? Did they drop those classified documents on the floor and take photos of those for us? I'm not sure if they did that. I doubt it. Tara Rayner says the place was raided already and no boxes to move for this video BS claim. The place was already raided and no boxes to move for this video BS claim. But they knew Trump wanted to release the vids, including the raid. I'm not sure this is a majorly consequential new ad. I don't even know what they're all so excited about. They didn't even delete anything, at least that we read. Bird Soup in the house with the thumbs up. Thank you, Bird Soup. 777 in the house. We got the good doctor on Locals says they needed a media distraction from Hunter. They couldn't even stand one night of discussion of the Biden crime family. It feels like they just layered on something. Yeah, it's like, okay. Yeah, waiting for that. Hey, breaking news. Good to see you, Doctor. Breaking news. Jack Smith indicted Donald Trump for jaywalking. He crossed the street. He's been arrested. They're going to ask for the death penalty for that. Thanks, Pickle Jars. This one came in from Wells Mortensen. Says, dollied all in pink. Second week into Barbie's box office crusade. This woman knows media impact at atomic level. Watching the interview for her, not him. This woman knows media impact at atomic level. Who are we talking about? Judge? I don't know who we're talking about, Wells. Barbie's box office crusade. Well, I don't know. Hopefully it's going well, that crusade. Chrissy in the house. Thank you, Chrissy. I appreciate this one. Very generous of you. And thank you for being an amazing member and for joining us as we get to business here. The good doctor says someone who is charged at the least with tax and gun charges is living in the White House first. And there's dime bags of Coke also floating around out there. We got Joel Flint says, how do we get someone to give Hunter a drug test to see if he's in compliance? So I thought about that yesterday. The judge could have ordered him to just report down to a drug test. I want you to just stop by and just pee in a cup. You said you didn't use since June 2019, right? So you're good. So we'll just have you report down there and let's just test you. We'll just test you. See if he's in compliance would be a good. Now, pretrial services, the people that he's going to be checking in with certainly could as well. Wim says, just cause, why shenanigans? Why shenanigans? Oh, thank you, Wims. Did I say something like that? Why shenanigans? Did I say that? The next person who says shenanigans. All right. Thank you, Wims. Good to see you. We've got this never silent. Says, why is the Obama Biden supervisor folk completely being left out of the conversation? Did Joe get a verbal written notice from his Obama that he wasn't following the rules? Is he not accountable to his boss? Doesn't the buck actually stop at Obama? Come on, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of Obama influence there. I don't know who's pulling whose strings or who's pulling Joe's strings ultimately, but we know it's not Joe. He's just moving around from room to room. Good to see you, Vis. Says failed leadership. She said it all day long. Wells Mortensen's on Locals says confidence in economy unsupported by any metric, any curve, any pattern behavior previously on record. Okay, I'll bite. Was this new economy design tested and implemented by octogenarians stroking out on camera? Well, some of them. Yeah, one of them is at least there. We've got Mitch McConnell, who's not doing well. We've got Joe Biden, who doesn't know where he is. And then we have the senator from California who needs to be told how to vote. Sell me more bridges. I just can't resist buying them. For a periscope into how much this is on fire, Rebel Capitalist on Locals and YouTube. Sounds like a good suggestion. Thank you, Wells Mortensen, over on Locals. Rocky Waters says, Rob, constitutional question here. If all the powers of the executive branch is vested in a president, doesn't that mean the president has all the powers of his subordinate agencies? That is, if the DOJ prosecutors have prosecutorial discretion, shouldn't the president have that same power, be able to instruct the DOJ whenever he wants on where they can to use that discretion to drop or to move forward with any case? And the answer is yes. Yes, I mean, yeah, the president comes under political scorn when he does that. But yeah, like the president can just fire special counsel, fire the head of the FBI, just fire people. And usually there's political pressure, but he certainly could do that, right? Fire a whole U.S. attorney and just get rid of people. But there's always the political pressure, which is why they don't do it that way. Because they say you're firing the person who's looking into you. But in a situation like this, for example, if Trump wins, I think that would already be priced in. So in other words, if Trump wins and just wipes out, all of these cases and fires all the prosecutors, everybody who's working on it, people on the left would scream about that and say, this is corruption. We'd already say, no. The whole prosecution was corrupt. That's why they all had to go. And we voted him in to override your claims of corruption. Michael Allen Hughes says, brain constipation in our politics needs treatment. Did they make a pill for that, Michael? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that would help in Congress. They need a lot. They need a team. We got Horatio Spinelli says, money should be fungible. We all agree? Yeah, I think that's a good principle. Certainly want it to be a medium of exchange, and that's a good way to do it, fungibility. Trust 2 Kids says, here's a little something towards Field of Greens for Kevin Mick. Does Field of Greens help grow spines? I'm sure it does. I mean, it's a great product, It helps with everything. So, but I don't know if it would help Kevin McCarthy grow a spine. I don't know about that one. Even Field of Greens, that's a big ask on that one. I'm not sure. Tara Rayner says, Pence documents he had since Biden's VP. Got it. So he wasn't excusing Biden. He was excusing his documents that he had since Biden was vice president. I got it. So good stuff over there. And thank you to Vientikis for clipping all of those away for us. And of course, let's say hello to our friends over on X and see if anybody's saying hello over there before we jump over to our members only after party after the X. Is anybody watching? Oh my gosh, we got 15 viewers. Is Elon, does Elon know about this? Does anybody have eyes on Elon? Somebody tell him. All right, Wolf says, I hope the judge throws the book at Hunter so bad that Joe has to pardon Hunter so we can all see exactly what's going on. MJ says, with all the shady activity with Hunter's lawyers, is the attorney-client privilege negated like Trump's? Well, no, the DOJ is not moving to breach that. They have already done that for Trump. They don't want to breach Hunter's. They're perfectly happy with Hunter having all of his privileges and then some. Holman says, nice job this week, young man. Please have $20 from Petty Cash. Thank you, Al. Good to see you, Al. Thanks for joining us this week. It's been a fun one. Raven Madness says, every day I feel like Jeffrey. Is this real life? Is this real life? Yes, Jeffrey. Great job of covering this from Raven. Thank you, Raven. Lori says, the Jack Smith was served in the DOJ as assistant acting U.S. attorney as the head of the public integrity section. Yeah, they put the most corrupt people at the heads of the integrity section. Fred Pedamonte says, when the defense attorneys are in cahoots with the federal prosecutors, law is done in this country. Yep, I think that you're right about that. And so, man, we're up to 20 viewers now. I basically say that 23? Oh my God. I don't even know what to say. I want to make a statement. I want to say, hi, Mom. I didn't prepare for this moment, but we're now in double digits on Twitter. And I just want to thank everybody who made this possible. So shout out to all of our Twitter friends on Twitter who made this possible. And the platform is holding up. It has not broken yet. So shout out to Elon for building infrastructure now. And so shout out to our friends on Twitter. I actually think that's very cool. I mean, I'm actually really that's awesome. I think that's a really cool. Oh, it all crap. No, we're back down to 12 now. All right, that's what I thought. We're back down to 12 now. Yeah, that's about normal. All right. So it was short-lived, but we enjoyed it while I was here. And I'm going to have to go journal about this over the weekend, figure out what this means for my future. All right. So my friends, that is it for us on the day. Now, we are going over for our members only after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'd love to see you join us. And of course, for our members, whether you're a member on YouTube or on Locals, we'll see you tomorrow for our members only morning stream Saturday show. And then also, Stick around this weekend on Sunday. I'm going to be going on a podcast on Saturday. On Sunday morning, I'm going to be doing an interview or a conversation with a friend. I'll let you know where to join us on that. I'll post that on YouTube and on Twitter and all the places. So, my friends, it has been a beautiful week. We are going to wrap it up. Let's say hello to our mods and our meme smiths. Thanks for keeping the fort nice and orderly throughout the week. Vientikis Prime in the house. K Bean. We got Just Cause. Playing Hooky. Ronnie Cole. Zulu's here. Beyond Geostars. Zach Nichols. John Allen. Janik 909. Dog Digger. Donut Mind Me. And John McGarvey all in the house. Modding down the fort for us. We've got Sleepy Dog Lee. Geegum Geegum. Nathan N810 as our meme smiths. And my friends, that is it for us here. We had a very packed week, and thank you for joining us on it. But it's time to unplug for a little bit, rest, recover, get some fresh air, stay hydrated, replenish those electrolytes, get some vitamin D, spend some time with friends and family, because we've got to recharge those batteries. Because next week, when we come back here, there's going to be a lot more to get to. And we've got to be attentive and ready to do it. Together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a great night, my friends. Sleep very well. Have a beautiful weekend. And we'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.